Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Vlad and today I'll be focusing on my mega roller coaster, or what I like to call the super coaster. Now, why did I build this? Because I love roller coasters and I love building custom mocks. So I put those two together last summer and this is what I came up with. Now, if you're wondering how big this coaster is, it's about 2.5 times to 3 times the size of the original roller coaster. Well, how I built it was I used 2 1/4 kits. I was originally going to use 2 kits, but then I ran out of some of the parts, so I bought a 3rd kit and came out to about 2 1/4 to 2 1/3 kits of parts. I wanted to stay pure to the coaster set. I didn't want to introduce any new parts, and so this is what I came up with. Now, in terms of size, this takes up about 3 times the area. Here's an image coming up just right now that shows the 2 coasters. On the left side is the original coaster, and on the right side is my new super coaster. As you can see, it's quite significantly bigger. It's almost twice as high as well. So what I'm going to present here is I'm going to show a couple of different things. I want to show, first of all, a tour of this coaster, kind of showing all the features and what I've done with it, what I've done a little differently. Just on the design of the coaster, I wanted to keep faithful to the original design. I just wanted it a lot bigger and longer, and this is what I got basically. So let's get started on the tour. To start the tour, here's a view from the back. I've removed the haunted house so you can better see the coaster, and as you can see, here's the chain drive that goes up all the way to the top of the coaster, which is a long way. It's almost double the length. I thought that was originally going to present a problem, but then I learned that as I tested it, that actually worked much smoother. I do have 2 supports for the chain drive, so it actually doesn't work too bad. I only have 1 wheel up at the top because I do have a drop right there, so I don't need to bring the coaster all the way around. So basically what I did with this coaster, I kept generally the same principle as the original, but it's got an outer and an inner track. So here's the outer track. The outer track is about double the height of the original. This first drop is about almost double the size of the original drop. It comes around and then comes to the same size drop as in the original coaster, first drop of the original coaster. Then it goes around there and it comes into the inner track where it drops again, and then it comes back up and runs around, and this track is the same width as the original. And then it comes up to a small little drop and hill, and then it goes into a tunnel. So what I did is I made my own tunnel here, and here's a view of the tunnel. And I did this with all the remaining pieces that I had with that. And then it comes around and it goes into a loop. This loop is a little bit more wider than the original loop and uses a little bit less drops. So here's the title of the roller coaster. As I said, it's called the Super Coaster. And then we come from the drop, we come around and we come back to the station. Now, just something about the station. The coaster is actually 4 carts long instead of 3, so I expanded the station. So you can see I added 3 weight queue lines, and also I've got the exit where the operator is. I've extended it a little bit beyond the canopy. I made the canopy a little bit larger, extended it so all 4 of the carts can be accessed. I kept the same functionality, except there is no manual lift because I have other things in the way and I wanted to keep it all motorized. The second track, coming off the first track, is about the height of the original roller coaster's highest point. And I wanted to basically abandon just the 1 single post idea and went with 4 posts in a triangular format. That created a lot of strength, so it's very strong, as you can see. I'm moving it, I'm pushing it, and it remains very strong and very sturdy. Same thing with the original. I had a double lattice structure inside for the second track. As you can see here, and then I went to a single one on the outside, and that provided to be very sturdy as well, just like the original, and I get not much movement out of that, so a lot less vibration. I made the intervals that the cross beams are somewhat a little bit more tighter and made them go completely across, and that provided a lot of stability. It's about 4 times the amount of structure as in the original roller coaster, so it took a lot more planning. So now let's focus in on what's inside the coaster. So what I wanted to do is put a little bit more than just the queue line in the coaster, and here I'll come around a little bit more so you can see it. So what I did is I've got the line coming in. I've got a double juicing. I used those two juicing booths and made a double juicing booth. I also have the photo booth inside as well, and a cotton candy. It's 2 places where they sell cotton candy and a little area where they can rest with some fountains. So it's a lot more area inside the coaster, and it's utilized to the fullest. Also on the other side, what I did is I created a pond, just a little pond area, just to give it a little bit more detail. Now, if you're wondering how portable this whole thing is, it's fairly portable. It splits into 2 sections just like the original coaster. As you can see right here, there's the joints, but I have a lot more of them. A lot more of them joining. Here's a close-up of one of the joints. So this thing does split into 2 halves, and I can actually carry it fairly easy. So it is portable, just like the original, just much bigger in scale. Yeah, I used just about all the base plates from the original. I was almost ran out, but I was able to basically make it work with what I had in the kit. Bird's eye view of the Super Coaster. You can see the inner track really clearly here. And here we come up to the big drop. And the top of the coaster is right here. Here you can see the top of the tunnel as well, and the fountain. And here we are to the top. So when I originally ran the coaster, it was running great, including the original one. It was running fast, sometimes almost too fast. But what I found over time is that it got slower and slower. I actually got to the point where it didn't even make the drops when it came back up. It would stop. Here's an actual example of on the Super Coaster where it would do the main drop, and it would just stop before it gets to the next drop. Here's actually another example where it would stop later down the coaster, and it actually would stop in 3 places. So I wanted to try to resolve this. Now, one of the biggest problems is that the wheels of the coaster are plastic on plastic. The axles run in a little slot, and over time debris gets in there and more friction develops, which translates into a slower train. The axles just don't turn as well as they used to. So what it is, I resolved this by using silicone grease. That's the same stuff that they use for treadmills to grease your treadmill. And it's very readily available, and here's what I did. So I've removed the wheels, as you can see, and I'm going to clean the little spots where the wheels snap in with a little Q-tip. Then we put a little bit of silicone grease onto a Q-tip, and we apply it to the axle slots of each cart. Make sure not to get grease all over the place. And then we put the wheels back in, we snap them back in, and we're ready to go. Now that I've greased the axles, let's see how that works. And that seems to have solved the problem because now it works really well. Make sure not to get too much grease anywhere else, because what I found is if you get some grease on the side of the cart or on the bottom, then the chain drive has trouble pulling it up. Otherwise it works really well. Next up, how I designed the coaster. So now that you've seen the roller coaster, you're wondering how I actually designed it. Did I use computer software? What did I actually use? Well, you're going to be pretty surprised, so here goes. So you're probably wondering how I did the layout. Well, you're thinking maybe I did it on computer, maybe I used the Lego software, or maybe I used some other software. Well, I used neither. What I actually did is I used paper, old-fashioned paper. I did it the old school way, where I made a grid where each dot on the piece of paper represented the stud, a stud on Lego, and the green represents the base plate. So I laid out my base plates, and then I figured out how many studs each track takes and how many Lego blocks high each track is. And I basically just did everything manually. I did a lot of iterations of tracks and a lot of layouts until I came out with the one that worked, I was happy with. And I drew it all up, and this is the result. This is my master plan. This is how I did it. What I also did too is the structure. I also laid out. So I laid it out by the support bars that go over the horizontal support bars. For each level of support bars, I had a structure, so that would follow. The blue are the vertical supports, and the orange are the horizontal supports. So that was level 1. I did it for the second level of supports. I did a separate one. And third level of supports, I did one as well. And so on and so on and so on. So it just goes to show that you can still do stuff on paper and actually come up with a very accurate design. And here in pictures is a little bit of a history of the building of the roller coaster. Here it is with the first and second level. Here's the interior inside. More the tunnel. Now almost to the top, almost done. And just about done except for the very high point and the complete coaster. Now I did mention before that I only used 2 1/4 kits. I had to use a third kit and because I ran out of material, especially for the supports. So what did I do with that other 3/4? Well, behind me is the original roller coaster, and I have the super coaster, and this is what I did with the remaining parts. I built what I call mini coaster, or a very small version of the roller coaster. The remaining parts, I had enough parts to make this, and it's a very simple coaster, and it only has 1 gate and still 3 carts, but it works. So that's what I did with the remaining. And here I have a photograph of all 3. So I have the original, the mega coaster or the super coaster I built, and the mini coaster sort of in comparison. So I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed really presenting that on my custom roller coaster. I'm really proud of it, and I really enjoyed making it and showing you this video. But before I go, and if you stuck around all the way to the end here, I'm going to show you a sneak preview of what I'm working on right now. It is basically a skyscraper. There's going to be 12 stories. Right now it's 9 stories tall, so there's 2 more stories that I'm building. Just waiting for some parts. So hopefully you enjoyed that. That's my new skyscraper. I'm really proud of it. And I will probably go into detail on it a little bit more when I finish it, when it's totally complete, integrated into my city. Until then, have a great day and see you all later.